International Film Festival, The Hague.
My name is Vara and I will be moderating this Q&A. And maybe we have time to spare at the end. I will turn to the audience and you will have your opportunity to ask our guests the questions. So keep your questions in mind if there's anything that I've not touched on. And may we welcome Michael de Wieler-Venning from Borneo Child Aid, who will be representing the Sama de Laut team. And may we also welcome Professor Albert Frankveld from non-standard Earth to Vigor and Even Less Standard. So I'll start with the Sama de Laut film. So could you please tell us about Borneo Child Aid and the cause it works on?
We originally started as a school project in Borneo, in Malaysia, where we specifically targeted the Sama de Laut groups because they're especially hard hit by the issues of statelessness, which essentially leaves them with no protection from any state whatsoever. Right now our new name, because we're expanding into the Philippines, is Indigenous Children's Learning Centers, where we currently have 14 schools in the island of Sibutu, you saw in the film, with about 2,000 children in total covering. And given the schools are in very basic conditions, but it's a lot better than nothing, in our opinion.
Of course. And well, when it comes to this film that you just saw, Sama de Laut, what do you hope it will achieve, and how do you envision the film contributing to this cause?
It already has achieved quite a bit. So with the director Christine and the producer Radim, we've gone around to various agencies, embassies, including also with some interest from the UN Development Cooperation Program. And we've seen a lot of support and interest in this issue now, which has sadly been stagnant for decades. Actually, there's been virtually zero interest. But with this film, we're now being approached by embassies and agencies asking how can we contribute, which is mission accomplished from my point of view already.
Yeah. No, of course, that's amazing. And from your personal perspective, what part of the film resonates with you the most, or which part is maybe the most inspiring or impactful?
The last part, I think, where it's about their dreams. It's quite painful for me to watch now, because I know that since, even though the conditions look quite horrible here, it's actually gotten considerably worse due to, one, the price of seaweed essentially collapsing due to the economic crisis, meaning there's virtually no lifeline now. You're down to whatever fish and meager catches they can get. And to me, it makes me think what's going through their heads now. You know, if it was already wondering about how to make it through tomorrow, then they're actually at the stage of what are we going to do today. So yeah, a bit heavy, sorry.
Okay, yeah. And what kind of audience do you hope this film will reach, and what do you believe that they could do?
I think that this film has the potential to show you that climate change, this is what climate catastrophe looks like. This is what happens when you don't take care of the environment, when you virtually neglect the needs of upwards of 300,000 people. They lose their entire identity, their way of life, their livelihoods, their futures thrown into disarray. They're left at the mercy of these horrible, cruel people, essentially, right? And I think that this film and films like it can serve as a warning to the rest of us, because it's not just the Sama de Laut and other indigenous people that are going to be hit by this, it's also us. So I hope it can serve as a sort of a warning beacon for the rest of the world, that if we don't do anything, then this will be you very soon.
That's right.
It's a complicated issue to learn about as well. You might find that when you go online to look for them, you'll find that there's around 6 different ways in which people refer to the Sama de Laut. The Sama de Laut name is a name they've chosen, that is the name that they use for themselves. Bajo and a lot of other names are names that are imposed on them. So already there it's difficult. I would suggest that if you want to look into the history of people such as the Samadilao, there's a anthropologist whose name is Harry Nemo. He did some very interesting studies back in the 70s, 60s, where he's documented a lot of their thoughts and the way their life was back then. So yeah, Harry Nemo on the Samadilao, that would be my start on where to go.
Okay. And is there anything else you'd like to add that I haven't touched on? Or?
Not on the top of my mind, but thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And well, let's move on to non-standard errors 2, bigger and even less standard. Could you share your thoughts and experience on being part of a short film and how this differs from your usual academic work?
Yeah, so just to be clear, I'm an academic and scientist, so I sit in my office and I teach, and I never was part of a movie, so it was completely new to me. But the director, who couldn't be here, David Stolin, he approached me with this idea of, I like this paper that you have out there, a scientific paper. I believe the rest of the world deserves to know about it, and I have a way to do that. And I was just, like in the movie, I was skeptical. But then he came with a film script, and it showed that he had done these things before, and he's calling them EdComs, educational comedy. And it's been a great experience to be participating in it. I don't want to take credit for anything here. The script was entirely written. And so you asked me what was the experience. I admire people who are actors because it's so hard to be part of the scene and then to remember your phrases, yet you want to sound natural. So I did the best I could, and with it, to me as a scientist, came more interest in what all this stuff was about. And if I may, it's a bit non-standard to have this little film in the rest of this program. But maybe it's not, because when you hear, particularly the first movie was about feedback loops, and the many studies that followed about climate and how large of a problem is it. People analyze a phenomenon in the ways that they like. They parse the data, use the statistics that they feel is best. And what the non-standard errors shows is that if you have different research teams do the same task with the same data, you get different outcomes. And so you can have a debate now where some people say, look, you're completely wrong about the climate risk because this, that, and the other, and I did my analysis. Whereas other people say, no, it's even worse than we think. And so they're completely on the other side, because part of it is that they use different ways to go about analyzing the same data.
Yeah, of course, that makes sense. And so I guess it was quite different from your normal lecture or classroom. Okay. And well, what motivated you to get involved in the film project on non-standard errors then?
Yeah, for the most, like I mentioned, scientists are a particular type of people. I guess we all are very curious, because if you're not curious, then there's no way you can be a successful scientist, because it's all about trying to figure out what's going on. And so the curiosity in me also came up when somebody comes with something completely new, and I wanted to find out about it. And then he told me that there was very little I needed to do. I just needed to read the lines and participate, and share it in my social circles. Come to film festival if you're invited, which is no cost to me at all. I actually enjoy film festivals. No, it was great to be part of this.
Okay, well, I'm glad to have you. And well, the research and statistics can be quite challenging subjects. How did you approach the challenge of conveying this information to a broad audience?
Yeah, so the idea is to bring in comedy, and again, it's not me. I'm basically just I've had many conversations with David Stolin, the director, and the idea is that if you get a fairly complicated issue, but you you look for a way to make it funny, people will not understand the entire phenomenon or the entire analysis. I don't have that idea, but they become interested.
Mm-hmm.
Like Sammy is talking about a talk show where people have to guess, make a guess about something, and that was also part of the scientific project. We made scientists that participated guess about what the outcomes would be, and they were oftentimes completely wrong. And so this was cast in a different story here, but it lures people into trying to figure out to either get to the slides or download the scientific paper and learn more about what we're doing.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and thank you to both of you for coming. It's really nice to have you. Lastly, where can people learn more about this if they're interested? At the name of the paper.
So it's Ed Movie is the producing company, and just Google Ed. I think it's Ed.movie, and or non-standard errors, and you'll find out more about it.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
International Film Festival The Hague.
Just a bit of background about the group. We're an amateur theatre group based in The Hague for more than 70 years now, and we have about 150 members. So we decided during COVID times we had a film festival because we couldn't do anything ourselves, just made with iPhones. It was a lot of fun. But we decided it was such a lot of fun we wanted to pick it up again. So this year we established the filmmaking group, and this was our first project. So John Keary volunteered to do that. He wanted a simple script, powerful script, which wouldn't need too much directing. He had a series of plays written by Greg Nelson, and he thought that he could translate that into a screenplay without much effort, and he didn't think it needed any changing. So this was the reason we chose that script. Well, it was completely in his hands. And then, with this group, we managed to attract some experienced filmmakers like Vincenzo here, who's done a lot of camera work, and Thomas, who couldn't be here today, who was the other cameraman and did the editing. And two of our actors, Elske and Lorna, who do our other theatre productions quite a lot. So they kindly volunteered to do that. So this was a new thing for us. We're completely beginners in filmmaking, apart from Vincenzo, but as a group we are. And we are open to new members with new ideas, so anyone here lives in the vicinity of The Hague and you want to get involved in filmmaking, we're very welcome.
Do you think there will be a continuation to the story, actually, maybe? Since you have the script that you are following.
First of all, I would like to say, in the AITG group, the theater group, I found a lot of competence. So they wanted to produce this short movie. It was the first time for them. I was helping in the production a bit, but was already a lot of competence. The director is very good, he's an actor as well. Michael's very good. The actresses were fantastic, I think. And then actually there was an idea to add at the end of this short movie a scene when we see like some kind of control room. So somebody that is actually spying the two ladies. But we didn't want to change the script because the writer said he would prefer not to change, to have any change in the script. So maybe there would be like a sequel, I don't know.
And maybe a question for the actors. You did a great job, of course, for performing your roles, being in the character. Was there maybe a part that directly resonates with you personally, that what you were talking about in the film?
Well, I think because the story is about fear, and I think it was a recurring theme we saw today in the other films, of course, it's something that you can't always directly explain. And my character looking at the papers and hoping that this stranger will be able to read them, it turns out that she also can't read the solution to our fears. And I think that's the biggest fear of all, no matter what they are, that you won't be able to solve what you're dealing with when you have the solution right in front of you.
Thank you.
This was written in '94, which is almost 30 years ago, and my character says, I don't give this world more than 10 years, and now we're 30 years on. So I do think every generation has its own fears, and we should remain hopeful for the future. Yeah.
Indeed. That's very good comment indeed. Yes. Thank you very much. A round of applause to the team behind here, and we will see you at the next
International Film Festival, The Hague.
And we are here tonight for this film, Betrayal, and I would like to invite to the stage all three of you, of course, actor Dirk Gunther Moch. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing it very well. That's okay. Peter Nielsen, yes, and Maurice Sandvliet. So the film is based on a true story. If you can tell us a bit more about the true story, the story that...
Two things I want to write in the story. There was Operation Amherst, the French liberators. The Dutch people doesn't know that a lot of French liberators were part of the freedom of Holland. So, and it was in the north, east from Holland. They did a big path for the freedom from Holland. So that's one of the things. And the other thing is I want to write, I have to write a story from it's not always black and white. You see in this film, it's not a Hollywood story. They are bad or they are good. No, the line between good and bad is very thin. So I wanted to write it down in the story, and it was a Dutch German officer, Ludwig Mengelberg. The story is based on my own family. I had my grandfather was Dutch, and my grandmother was German. And the German side, two of my brothers from my grandmother were dying in Russia in 1942 as German soldiers. And there were in our family, there were never talked about this side of our family. The Dutch side and the German side in the beginning have clashed after the war. After 10 years it was already good again, and the two Germans who died there were from my family were normal guys. And a Hollywood story is always bad and good, and I want to show they were normal people. So that's the two stories in this film.
You did a really great job portraying that, for sure. Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I want to ask you then already a question for you as an actor of performing in this film. So if you can tell us a bit more, since it's also linked to your personal story, your personal background and family, this journey of Ludwig going from being dedicated Nazi fighter to actually changing and betraying basically his country, one of them. How was it to portray that? Did you take a lot of it from your personal side, from your personal family? Did you get a lot of their maybe stories and advice on how to perform in this role?
Yeah, it's of course of the family side, but I have doing investigations and to do this as an actor, to acting this part. I was in east of Germany, did with the German soldiers. There are really Germans in the film. You can hear it at the voices. and we take together in a bunker and sleeping together, so they know I am their overleutnant. So to feel each other like real comrades, and also Maurice, the part of the reenactment group from Holland, the Gebirgsjäger. I'm part of that group too. After, so we know each other for to do the things.
How long did it take to get in the role?
The film, to make this film was 4 years. You have a corona, and that was that was not so good, but it gives new chances to do some things better for the film. And I was 4 years, I think 5 years. And when I was home, it was always Ludwig. And my wife, when I do something wrong, she said always, "You are not Ludwig at the moment." So I'm sleeping with this guy for a few years.
Yeah, we see film, I don't know if I also need to take a microphone. You can hear me well, I think, right?
Yes.
We see also in the film that you have flashbacks of seeing your father, your character as Ludwig. You see your father fighting in the war and talking about traitors, and then you have other flashbacks of your family, daughter and wife, and peaceful, more peaceful moments with them, for sure. So there is this dilemma between being evil and being good, and the character is trying to fight that. In the end, he succeeds. I would say I personally saw it more, especially when he came to the farmland, that yes, I killed hundreds, thousands of people, but here I am at this farmland, and I will start small, but I will help these people. So there is a very, very big change, of course, in the character. Do you think that actually it means that all of us, we can actually change to be better? Or is it something that he was just stuck, basically, being in the wrong time and wrong place, and that's why he was who he was until a certain point?
You see that he is a human. Huh? That you saw the execution, and you saw in his face that he had some problems with this to do this job.
Yep.
And he loses his family, and so he was totally in his mind. He was totally messed up. And during the film, you see that he was in the. You see that his mind were completely changed from this war, this madness. And in this film, I think you can portray this on the film in other wars. And you see now Russia and Ukraine, and you see in the West we said this, in the East we said that. There's a lot of propaganda, and there's always a line that's very small, and we see it again, and that's very sad.
Yes, indeed.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
I have a question for you now.
Okay.
For Derek, yeah. So you played the bad guy.
Yes, I did.
And I wanted to ask you, what did it take to capture all those emotions, all the preparation behind your role? What did it take? How long did you have to prepare for that?
Well, Peter called me to portray this character, and I thought it was a big challenge to me, especially because a part of my family has been arrested and been gassed during the war. And my grandmother had Alzheimer's around that period, so I wanted to ask her first to get an approval to play this part, but she has Alzheimer's, so I thought I would ask my mom, and she said no problem, just play the part if you want to. And to put on the uniform, it's already one part. It was, for me, it was strange, because the first scene was in the museum with Peter, and I saw all those swastikas. I saw the portrait of Hitler, and I played the scene. I went home, and I was having a headache, and I was really disgusted with everything. And but I liked the scene and everything. And after that, I was just playing that bad guy. I was just thinking, okay, I have to have that ideology of the Germans, what they want, why they want it, and to become that character, you really have to understand that character. You have to understand the time, and I had the luck that I could improvise as much as I wanted, and later on I get the hang of it. I was really having fun also to become that character, and it was really a big challenge, and I'm very happy I got the chance of Peter to play this part and to be one of those guys in this great cast and crew, and I'm really happy that we made a great movie.
Yes, yeah. Maybe another question, because we see also, you know, in this negative character, we see a lot of course, emotions that he goes through. We see jealousy, anger, all kinds of rage. We see suspicion from the beginning, I would say, with the character Ludwig. So we see a lot of these emotions. Which one of them was the most difficult to play?
Well, in the beginning was the admiration for this Oberleutnant. I was really admired because he's a hero in Germany, and I wanted to be just like him. Later on, I saw he was different than I thought he was, and how do you say that? Well, the anger was pretty hard to play because, you know, you really have to play an angry, not a German, but an angry Dutch soldier who wants to become one of the Germans around that time. And to think about that all the time, you have to be that person. That was pretty hard. But again, you know, the uniform, all the props, all the tanks and everything, all the weapons, they really helped me out. And again, I really had a blast to play that part and see what happens during the scenes. I was shooting the scenes. Also the scene when I point the weapon on Peter when he's on the ground. I remember I was improvising, and then I kicked something and it was broken, and I walked away, and then they said cut. I turned around and everybody was looking at me, what's going on over here? But then I went out of character, and then, sorry guys, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm sorry, but that was just improvising, and I'm just in character. So
very interesting indeed. Well, I have a question about how you recreated the Second World War. You didn't have a Hollywood budget, and yet you managed to make it absolutely fantastic and really convincing. We were there in the scene in the Second World War through the entire film. If you can tell us more about all the equipment, all the tanks. We even saw a steam train in the film. Where did it all come from, and how did you make it happen?
First, I have to say, Maurice did a lot of us for the props. And what?
I can tell something about it if you like. Okay. First of all, yeah, Pete. We have to thank Peter for a lot because he managed to get a lot of commitment for a lot of reenactment groups. And there are a lot of reenactment groups in the Netherlands and in Belgium and in Germany. And yeah, among these people are really specialists. And okay, it's a little bit strange to say, but I'm a specialist too on the German part of the Second World War. And I'm a collector too. So when we start working with Peter, and I met Peter in another movie we worked before, I said, okay, we're gonna work on this movie, but I want that the film is perfect, and not what you see with a lot of films, especially in the 70s, that you see a lot of Germans always with shouting Heil Hitler, and always with marching boots and that kind of things, because these are political greetings, and what was done by the SS, but normally not by the German Wehrmacht. And the part what I then wanted is to put in some of my collections of radios, weapons and that kind of things, and take an overall look that everything is really as close as it was.
To the reality.
Very authentic.
Yes.
Very authentic.
More,
You can, but I can say something that too. When I call with Maurice, I want to fix that bunker with the radio, and I said, "One, do you need this?" Yeah, then I must see. Maybe I have time. You have to with this car, 250 kilometers. I'm there. I have all the equipment, and so we did a lot in these 4 years. And he was always there. You know, when you see the machine gun who's shooting, we are shooting with real munition. And you said in the beginning, what was our budget? It was not more than 300,000 euros.
Amazing.
And we were for the first time by Dutch filmmakers, and he said, how did you do this? I said, yes, in Dutch in the East, they said, we did this with a lot of naberschap. Commitment.
Neighborhood feeling.
And all from museums, they all helped us, and I'm very grateful and thankful to Maurice and the reenactment groups who did a lot of work for us. So and that's and in this 4 or 5 years we did this with our reenactment groups from Germany. All these people are in these years were friends together to get this film so what it is now. So I'm very proud that we did this, and it's now on Netflix.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. It was in the bioscoop, and it was it's still a dream.
I've been to quite a few museums in the Netherlands, and I've been to, for example, Openlucht Museum or for the train museum in Utrecht. So I was seeing some of the pieces in the film, and I was like, they must be from a museum. So did you also shoot in actual museums inside the museums as well? Were you able for some of the rooms or?
Most of the props you see in the film are owned by reenactors, because they're collectors too.
Including the tank.
The tank, yeah.
The tank, yeah.
I mean, it's fantastic that you managed to
There's
get
a
that.
group of people. There are only two in the world that are driving for these Nasrons, and one is restoring yet in the War Museum in
Overall, yeah.
And they can use their part of the garage of the museum.
I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed.
This Nashorn, this Nashorn is the only one German Nashorn who is driving. And there's no film in the whole world have this Panzer.
There are lots of questions in my head, but let me start with the ultimate feeling at the end of the film. I was moved to tears. The message, films about war are bad and good. You're from the eastern part of the Netherlands. I was born south. My cradle was 500 meters away from the German border, close to Aachen. I know the dialects, I know the way the Germans speak there. It all sounded authentic, and now I understand why, because you had enactment groups. But the theme as such is so universal. knowing that my parents were in the war. I was born shortly after the war, but I got all the stories. And my father said the most difficult thing in all this was the conflict, the personal conflict people got into, because they had relatives, they had friends, they had cross-border marriages, etc. And suddenly some idiot in Berlin thinks about something and he puts the whole world to fire. And all these things, all these emotions, they let me participate in that and said, there is not good and bad. Bad is the fact that people are destroyed, worlds are destroyed, relationships are destroyed. Good is that there are still people with the hope and the capacity to overcome that, and also to reconciliate after it all happened, that the Germans, right up till today, young people say stupid crowds, you know, Moffe, etc., etc. Can I share a beautiful anecdote from my family? My father had two brothers who were mentally and physically handicapped, and when the Allies came to liberate their part of the Netherlands, obviously they had to evacuate the people away from the battlefield. And those two boys could not be moved easily. There was a Feldwebel of a Luftwaffe unit, and he got to know my grandfather, he got to know these boys, and he said, well, we'll fix something. And within a few days, he came with a little chart with wheels to transport those boys, and they were made by the unit. So how could my father say they're Rotmoffer? Because they also assisted in helping it, you know?
Well, so I write a story because of these sort of things. The normal German soldier was a human.
Yeah, that's right.
And
so a great compliment for the props, but for all the acting and the authenticity in the acting, and also all the fighting that was going on. I've been a platoon commander in a platoon of tanks in my army service. So I liaised to tanks and the sort of fighting that goes with it. It was very authentic. A great compliment, Peter, and
thank you.
The rest well. Thank you very much for that.
I can say something to that too. I was 12 years in the Navy as a Navy diver.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Iraq, and I was in Cambodia. Two situations there was not so.
The battlefield is not strange to you.
It's not so. To act as a soldier, it's in my genes. So I know one. I can tell something. We were in Hanover in Germany, and one of the German veterans said, "Okay, I will say something about this, but first I want to make a statement." And he said, one of the black things in our history in Germany is what we do with the Jews. And then he told him what has happened with him in the war, and everybody gets
goosebumps.
Yeah, and after we show some things, some scenes from the film already, and he said to me, and it was a big compliment. He said, "Peter, you act like a real Oberleutnant." So it was a big compliment for me.
Yep.
And I was in a hotel there, and
it reflects.
How big is your collection, if I may ask?
Well, what do I have myself? I have some original radios they use, and yeah, I can say the names, but you probably don't know what I mean. A Toren EB and a Toren FU, and I have an original DKW motorcycle from 1940.
The one with the two...
No, not with a sidecar, the
no.
smaller ones. And yeah, uniforms and a lot of other things.
We have
and we built a complete Veld hospital.
you have seen the hospital in the film. That's all made by
Great job, really.
Yeah. And that's all original.
IFFH.
It was much bigger
Uh-huh.
than we have shown in the film, but okay.
And where is the tank? In a barn somewhere in Drenthe? Where is the tank?
The tank is in Limburg.
Limburg?
Yeah.
Where?
Yeah, it's now in Overloon.
Overloon, of course.
Okay, thank you so much. Do we have questions? Okay, fantastic, please.
So first of all, congratulations for the movie, and I particularly appreciated, like others, the acting. Dirk, Dirk, specifically your performance, I think it's really good.
Thank you very much.
Was very believable. I think that the character was not super easy. Was not even that the evil guy had some changes in the perception of others, so it wasn't the easiest. It was quite a complex performance, and you did it very well. I work a lot with the European Association of Historians, which will be here tomorrow, which produced my last documentary that you will see tomorrow if you're here, about the current war in Ukraine. And I work also in area where with documentaries where the process of reconciliation is still happening. I see the work the importance of this work. And I see that in the Netherlands it's something that is happening, but it's not for a long time. It's quite recent, let's say, the study of the complexity of your own history, the colonial history, and also the role in the Second World War. So it's a great film because of, I think, that aspect is very difficult to portray the gray areas in a situation like this. I was wondering how, if you have faced some challenges from the public or from the authorities, how it's being perceived, a film where the Dutch and the Germans are friends, and the Dutch is not the hero, the Germans are not the evil guys. Are you facing some difficulties? Like, is the public happy, let's say, about this?
All meet and greets where all the people were enthusiastic, because I can tell it again, it's not black, it's not white, because everybody knows now. For 30 or 40 years it was the other side. It was always Germans were bad, and then it's now it's more open now to discuss this. And I see in Germany the film is now in Germany, is in Switzerland, and in Austria. And I know from the German side they are very happy with this film. I know.
In the Dutch?
And the Dutch also. There is nobody said it's because it's not black white.
It's a realistic movie. It's
Yes.
realistic.
It's not. There is no romanticism in it. You know, it's
It's a
real.
portrait how it was,
Yeah.
how it really was,
Yeah.
and that's a really strong point in this movie.
Have you received any commentary from? Wow. Have you received any commentary from other, for example, from Jewish people, from other nationalities about the subject? Have you had a good reception from them? Have you heard something about it?
My wife is Jewish, so that was half Jewish. Her father was Jewish and her mother is not Jewish, but in the beginning she said, okay, you this German story, but she said she found it a very good story. That she saw. Yeah, I know that in the beginning when we are making this film, there were some from the Jewish side. There were some. They said, okay, I don't know. They were not so positive. But now they have seen the film. They said, okay. It's it's yeah.
Because there is a plot also there that is very human. It's the fact that, you know, some people when there is the woman that pretends to be, well, or maybe she had some feelings about, you know, from your character, and then at the end you see, you know, the person next to her said, you know, the partisan said, well, you know, we agree on something, but she was not really sure, but she has to accomplish that because it was in behalf of many people behind her, right? So that was a really important part. I think, you know, it was like, you know, it's not because she was bad, it's because, you know, there was in some way, some justice on the way that happened, you know, that end happens. Not necessarily, but, you know, there was like this other
I can
story.
say something about the end of the film.
Yeah.
The end of the film was, in the first script, it was the other way. Ludwig was in the first script dying in her arms. But after doing several times doing the script and is it okay? We do it the otherwise. So.
What was that decision? Why did you take that decision? Because that changed everything.
I didn't. I didn't. It was a decision from Dutch filmmakers. They wanted that in the film.
Right.
And they asked me how about thinking about this. I said, give me 24 hours. I have to think about it. And she said, finally I said, okay.
I think that was the right decision, because the other one would have ended in some sort of romanticism, and that's not what the film is about.
It wasn't.
The film is pretty strong, it's pretty heavy and cruel in terms of human relationships. So it would have been out of place, to my feeling.
This was after 24 hours, I said yes.
Yeah, you can see how the story is diverted, you know, to somewhere else, you know, even the message, the final thing is like, okay, you were, you know, like he said, the other way you will be different, but it was, yeah, I like it. I like it too.
I think it all has to do with every people. We are, our cradle is everywhere on the world, and even the Germans, you know, when you were born in Germany or in Austria, in the mid-30s or the late 30s, you're just born there, you're raised up there. Yeah, in that time, with everything that is around and goes around, and you grow up with it, and that's how your life. That's how your life flows. The direction you have to take in your life is.
Unfortunately, life.
She was really living it as a small child, and my great grandmother was hidden with 4 little children all by herself in, for example, a farm. And one time there was a German soldier, and he heard something in the barn, and he was opening the door, and he saw a woman with 4 little children, and he walked away. Normally, he would arrest her and the little children. They would die, but he kept them alive, and he said, everything's clear here, and he walked away. So, not all the German soldiers were bad, just like not all the Dutch people were good. So that's why the story about, it's not black and white, and what you said, Maurice, when you were a German, around that time, you had to be in their army. Doesn't matter if you liked it or not, if you were behind the story or the plan of Hitler, you had to do it. Otherwise you will be killed. So that was very pretty easy.
Well, I think it was in the beginning, when you live in Germany, and what I've heard from my family, it wasn't crystal clear if National Socialism was a bad thing with some good things going around, or a good thing with some bad things going around. And after 75 years now, okay, we've learned about history and we know a lot of more things, and we can watch back. But when you're living in a small Austrian town like my family did, high in the mountains, and your family survived the First World War, and it goes better and better. You have a lot more food, and you have proper, decent clothes again. That's how life's running. It's going.
Yes. I live in Germany, 6 kilometers across the border, and we did a lot of filming in Germany, and everybody is very proud of this film in the where I live.
The neighborhood.
And the neighborhood is where I live it's Laag. Sounds like Dutch, but it's German. And they asked me during the premiere of the film, and they asked me, Peter, are you on the stage? Peter, are you now a German? I lived there now for I think so 24 years. And he asked me, Peter, are you a German or are you a Dutch? What are you? I said, there was JF Kennedy. He said, I'm a
Berliner.
I'm a Berliner. I said, I'm a Lara. So all the people were saying,
Whenever they ask me that question, I say I'm.
Do we have more questions from the audience?
7 o'clock is the next important one, isn't it?
Yeah.
In Koorenhuis. So we should keep an eye on that.
Maybe I will just ask one last question. What was the most difficult scene to shoot that you had to shoot over and over again, if you can remember? I know probably there were many, but maybe one specific one.
The most takes we had to do was the one. He was taking the documents to let soldiers go home, and I had to go on the stairs. I think I did that 30 times. And I don't know why exactly, but I know that I was really tired after that scene, and it was just one small scene of maybe a minute. And that's the scene I had to do the most.
Yeah. I know. I just made the props, but my guys, my gebiersjaggers, these are the guys who are running on the stairs. And I keep on running. And all the time was, okay, 5 seconds, you. 10 seconds, next one. Going up, going down. All my guys, they were really exhausted.
Yes, yes. So it was not like some shooting scene or something, but
it was like a sports event.
Yeah.
What you see, there was in the film, what a lot of work was the injuries. Yeah. There was, and we have that cost us days.
The makeup of it.
Yeah, we did little explosions on the uniform. Oh. So there was a sender, and they asked, when must I fall down? Yeah. You will feel it. Yes. And then with the sender, you fell down. That was very easy. So you see the blood that's coming out. There's all the scenes where you see the blood is really, it's not with little explosions. And the explosions in the film are really, that's really explosions.
Good pyrotechnics. That was very good.
Yeah.
What is always a pity, by example, the field hospital we made, the Eastern Front Field Hospital, it's 5 days work for 2 minutes on the screen. But okay, we did that with love.
I can still sense it.
Thank you very much for this great film, for a great story. It was really a pleasure to watch it from the beginning till the very end. Very captivating story. We hope to see you tomorrow with us at the International Film Festival. We are continuing now in the Koorenhuis, and then tomorrow we are there all day with the award ceremony at the end of the day. So please join us already from tonight and also tomorrow. Yes. Yeah. And we hope to see you there, and we hope to see you in every international film festival, The Hague.
Tomorrow is there, is there, and there will be some other people you will see out of the film will be there. I'm not, because there's another film festival in the north of Holland, there's another Kroon film festival, and I have to be there. So so much tips. That's the thing. But there are some guys, new guys, you will see there. Out of the film.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very
Good.
much.
Thank you.
International Film Festival, The Hague.
So I would like to invite to the stage Michelle Traurig and Rose Kals, who are the writers, directors and producers of the film Belonging. I would also like to invite the director of the film Books Not Bombs, Stefano Di Pietro. Welcome. Very good having you here with us tonight. Thank you very much for coming. This short documentary, I'm going to start with Belonging, the film Belonging that we saw, the second film in this blog, is about 4 young Ukrainian students, girls who were brought from Kiev to Amsterdam in the midst of the war to be able to finish their studies here. And I would like you to let us know what was the motivation behind making this film. If you can tell us more, please. Thank you.
If I'm coming from, because I'm half Ukrainian, so I wanted to make a project related to Ukraine and the ongoing war. And Rose and me, we met at Campus Doc, which is like a documentary program, and Rose wanted to collaborate. Well, maybe you can also say something about.
Yeah, so Michelle pitched the idea, and I could really see myself in her ideas for the movie. I also really like stories about people and about the things that are happening in the world, and I like her view was that she didn't want to make it too political and really focus on their stories and stories of refugees and how they feel. And yeah, I really like that idea, so that's how we came up with the theme and yeah, the whole film.
How did you meet the man who's behind this, who's shown us a big act of kindness to bring students from Ukraine to Amsterdam?
Yeah, we met him through the girls. We met Alina first. I found her through Instagram, and then we met her roommates, and then they connected us to him. But I had already read an article about him and the amazing things that he was doing, so we were really happy that he wanted to work with us and also be in the movie and tell his story and his motivation.
If you can tell us more, how did you manage to get the girls feel comfortable to tell their very personal and very traumatic stories? How did it go, the whole process of filming?
I think it was really good that we started off just getting to know them and like also more becoming, like building a connection and becoming friends. So we just had like dinner together and got to know them and told them what the project is going to be about, and we just let them know about everything so they could just also be prepared for it. And also during the interviews, which I conducted mostly because like I could understand Russian and partially Ukrainian.
That would have been one of my questions. Now
Yeah.
it explains. Yeah, thank you.
Well, I speak only Russian, but Ukrainian, like I just try to guess most of it, and then I also had some help with translating. But yeah, I think because they were able to also express themselves in their own languages that they're like comfortable with, that also kind of helped with the trust and yeah, building up that connection. And also whenever they didn't want to talk about something which didn't actually happen, but we always try to give them enough space and like take breaks, or if we saw that something is maybe a bit too personal, then we just said, okay, no, we're not gonna do that, and just give them their space.
Thank you. I think I would have 1 more million questions, but I would like to ask the audience if you have questions. Could you please raise your hand?
Do you still have contact with the girls? Because I think the movie was made 9 months after the war started. So are you still in contact with them?
Yeah, actually, we are. Like I said, we also kind of became friends, so we also check up on them from time to time. And also for every event like this, we try to make them feel like be part of this. So we also invite them and would always love to have them there. So yeah, we're still in touch with them and also with the rest of the crew still. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Please give a round of applause for the film Belonging. Thank you. Moving on now to the next film, Books, Not Bombs. You can tell us more. Thank you.
First of all, congratulations to the other films. I really like all the work I've seen, and to the festival for inviting us. Well, it all started with a cry for help, which was sent by Irina, one of the teachers, to Steven, the producer, the director of Euroclio, which is the producer of the film. So also a round of applause for Euroclio. If you can raise some hands. There is Frank, there is Joke, there is Steven there. You have seen him in the film as well. So it started from there, and then as you may have seen in the movie, it's not just the documentary, it's a lot of people who responded. And the documentary was, let's say, an idea I proposed to Steven when he asked me if I wanted to help. And it really resonated with me, also because all the women in my family are teachers. Were teachers, my grandmother as well. So there is some kind of a personal connection to these people who are not recognized enough in their work, even though they bring a big change in society.
Thank you. A lot of the film was shot, of course, in Ukraine. There was actually multiple countries that you were filming in, from what I understood, including the US. But a lot of it was shot in Ukraine, and we could see in the film, and we know about it, there were a lot of universities and education facilities completely destroyed. If you can tell us the experience of shooting that, and how did it feel?
Well, yeah, the last time I went actually 3 weeks ago in Ukraine, also in Kiev and in Kiev Oblast, the region, which places like Borodyanka, Bucha, Buzhova, because this is becoming a bigger project. It's becoming a feature documentary that we are working on. It was not easy at all. I mean, this is also Gianmarco, the line producer, sometimes went even without me. We did several trips together with other humanitarian aids. So that's also an interesting thing. Let's say that there were cargo bringing food, and we were filming and doing interviews. I did these last interviews 3 weeks ago to the Minister of Education as well, and filmed in places that were occupied by the Russians, and it's not easy to experience, to see, to witness. I think that one takeaway is definitely feeling the responsibility of what you're doing as a filmmaker when you tell these stories. So it's not just about us, our work and our personal motivations, which are could be as strong as possible, but it's about other people as well. And then when you look people in the eye and you see their situation, it's their houses that's been destroyed, not mine. You see a moral obligation. You should feel a moral obligation to do your work beyond just professional work. This is it's humans, and that's what we also discussed with Steven a few weeks ago. It's a difficult project to get a feature documentary funded and continue working against time. But the point is, there is a moral obligation. So.
I found it very encouraging, the thought that not only the printing of the new textbooks that will depict the real modern version of a history of Ukraine, but also that these books are going to be available digitally with a full online program. I thought this was an absolutely fantastic idea also for the refugee kids who live abroad. And of course, we've seen through the entire film that there were a lot of children in your film. How was it to direct children in your film?
Well, I have been particularly, let's say, interested in their perspective in the last couple of years, not only about that conflict, this conflict, but also the war in general. Because I believe that there are certain things that are extremely complicated and certain that require complex explanations. But there is also some simplicity that is lost quite often. And the kids remind us that that there is some, that there is there is something that is deeper, and that it's there, and we can see it. So.
Yes, thank you. Do we have questions from the audience? Please raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question.
I would like to ask a question. I was wondering, the local people, how do they react when you shoot there? Are they happy or they react in a different way? What is the relationship with the local people?
It really depends. I think not. So when they understand exactly what you're doing, that you're a journalist, that you're a documentary filmmaker, and that you are telling the story, they're grateful. But first, no. Like first, they're very. They don't want anyone around in a situation like this. Understandable. Of course, it's also their private life that is exposed. So there is this feeling of that you don't feel welcome all the time. But it's understandable, and it's a joy to see what they change completely when they understand the context. And we were very welcomed for the people we interviewed and that knew what we were doing, and I will remember them forever.
Please give a round of applause for Film Books Not Gone.
International Film Festival, The Hague.
The film is a very, very powerful one. It's a film about a very tragic story, about suicide, the death of a son, brother, a young male teenager. It was really impactful, and I'm sure the audience fully agrees with me. Could you tell us what is the story behind this film? What motivated you to make this film?
Well, there are two elements of that. I'll start with the easier one. The sign language came from a dream my mother had. The sign language part originated from a dream my mother had, that she had a random dream that in her dream, made a fictional. It's based more on a sort of emotional truth. The film is also dedicated to the memory of Jeppe van Arbel. He was a family friend, and in 2017 committed suicide. And as a reaction to that, I started writing and coping with the script, and saw the way to make some form of legacy, I guess. At least what I could do.
So you know the person in person. It was a personal story to you.
Yes, it was that I live. While I'm Dutch, I live in Vienna. So we would do these half-year trips, like in summer and around Christmas time, and in those times we would visit family and friends. And Jeppe was, I think, 3 years older than me. But when I was like 6, when we went to the Van Arbels, he was this model I created in my head of, okay, so this is how a cool, tall, model teenage Dutch guy is supposed to be like. So he was this example to strive towards as a small kid. So that's why the whole perspective of this film is from this small kid looking up and being, also with the isolation. Yeah, yes, exactly. Yeah.
Thank you. I also, of course, we all saw that there was a use of sign language in the film, which made the story even more impactful. What was behind that? Why did you decide to make the story in that way and use the sign language as well?
Like I said before, the main kick-off of that was the dream my mother had with the hands and feet, that I would make a... Yeah, she just came up to me and told me this weird dream. She was very flabbergasted by herself, and yeah, that stuck in the back of in my mind. And yeah, when I tried to find in the script a way to express this isolation, this isolated world, I thought about like different language barriers, and then those thoughts of the dream and the separation of, even in your own family, you still have being separated in a small world. Those feelings of isolation manifested themselves into the sign language part.
You connected all the pieces together,
exactly.
basically. Yes, yeah. Thank you. Maybe a question to all of you, and I will start with the character Daniel. Even though his presence in the film is just brief, so he's not there for the entire film, but we can feel his presence through the whole film. We can feel it from the beginning till the end. So that also, of course, shows the great acting skills that you performed. And also credits to directing and to the cameraman and to your work for also showing us how it feels, the emotional part of the suicide, even though we don't get to see the actual body, the dead body. So that's also was very, very impactful, and you can see that you worked very hard to make that happen. Could you tell us maybe what did it take to prepare mentally to make it so convincing for the audience?
That was a really hard question. I think, I think it took me about a couple of weeks to get really into the part, and it was not my personal story, so it was really hard getting into that role. And of course, because you're playing together with other actors, and after playing together for a while, you have like a certain connection. And me and the sister, we really bonded. It was really cute because during the filming, we would always play together. So I really had the feeling of like, after this movie, I'm not gonna see her that much anymore. So it was also like trying to say goodbye and keeping that mindset whilst acting.
Thank you very much. Do we have questions from the audience? Please. No questions? Yes, please.
How did you learn the actual sign language?
Oh, that's actually a pretty funny story, because I was taught sign language by one of the actors who also played in the movies. Was the girl at the AIDS center that actually gave the stuffed animal to my sister. And it was really funny because they gave me like videotapes of the actual text. So I was practicing at home all the time. And then all of a sudden I was practicing for a couple hours, and I was making a selfie, and I was like, it's mirrored, because if you film something over a camera, it's always mirrored. And I was looking at the video, and I was like, that's also been filmed by a webcam, so maybe that's also mirrored. So I was like calling Sander, I was like, oh my God, like I think I've learned everything. I memorized everything like mirrored. Is that a problem? And he was like, I don't know either, so. Yeah, that was a little bit hard, but in the end it didn't really matter, so yeah.
Is sign language, is it universal?
No, and actually that's what I thought as well before doing this movie. I didn't know any sign language at all. And the thing what I thought is like they have like this universal language for it, but actually even within Austria there are like 8 to 9 dialects. And I think it varies so much because it is spoken among like close communities. So it's also really easy for some words to like make something up if you don't know something. So for example, they had like Coca-Cola. So Magdalena, the sister, like the little girl, they would always do this for Coca-Cola, which was really funny, but maybe in France or like in other parts of Austria, they would use another sign for that. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we don't have much time, and we have one more film to talk about. So you may ask questions after this outside in our corridors. Thank you so much. Please give a round of applause for the team behind the Deafening Silence.
International Film Festival, The Hague.
And the lead actress and scriptwriter, Alice Efting. And the director of Bitter, Burak Ogut Segunir. So good afternoon. How are you all doing?
Heavy block. Heavy block for sure, yeah. It is.
Well, first off, yes, I would like to express how powerful the films are and their topical relevance to today's world. So, with that in mind, we can start with you. What brought you to the story and what led you to the creation of this film?
If I speak with no microphone, will you be okay? Yes. Yeah? I hate this. Would you use it? Well, the story comes from something that I experienced in a similar ground. In the apartment I was living with the neighbors, and I was alone, so there was no dinner party. And I ended up trying to find the apartment where the noises were coming from, and that experience led to writing the story. I mean, you know, domestic violence is a huge problem in Turkey. It's, I think, I traveled a lot and I've seen no place that there's no problem with domestic violence either. So once I've gone through that experience, I was like, gotta do something about this this moment, and it was pretty much instant. I wrote the first draft, and then eventually it became the thing that you saw.
Right. And yeah, whoever of you would like to talk on what about you? What brought you to the creation of the film?
Well, I do recognize a little bit from Burak's story, as in the part where he's saying it just came to me on the paper and then it became a script. I had the same, actually. It's, for some parts, definitely based on my own experiences with the grey area of sexual harassment or violence or abuse. But there's also many other people that I spoke with, female, male, from the, let's say, victim perspective, but also from the perpetrator perspective, that I based this script on. Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. And could you both talk about your goals with this film?
Let's see, what is the goal? Well, I made this film because I was kind of missing something. When I had my own experience with this is actually a conversation that I never had. And I think many people who experience these kind of situations where it's a bit vague what really happened, people don't talk about it. You don't as a victim, you don't as someone around, you just don't talk about it and you don't understand each other's perspectives. And I really wanted to make a short film that was focused on two different perspectives of one specific night, in order to actually also make people aware that perspectives can change. That's about it.
For me, when Elise approached me with the story, for me the goal became to explore his side of the story. So the guy in the back of the cab, because for me that character, Dennis, genuinely didn't understand or realize that he'd done anything wrong. And that's what you said to me. It's the grey area. It's certain types of abuse are clear. The abuser knows that they're abusing. This is about that area that we're now starting to talk about much more with the Me Too movement and with all the stuff that's happened in the Netherlands, with all the TV shows, that really needs to be talked about. And I think the perpetrators in this case often don't realize when they see films or they see documentaries about abuse, they don't relate it to themselves because it's the clear abuse. And in this case, it's about portraying, hey, that could be me. I might have, as a man, or I mean, women as well, but mainly men, I could have done that to somebody and not realize that I was going over their borders or going too far. And because this conversation never happened, that person, that guy, that Dennis in the back of the car, never gets to realize that and never gets to maybe learn from it. And for me, that was the story that really touched me and I wanted to focus on. And that's the bit that, yeah, like it's the grey area. It's the less obvious forms of abuse that sometimes the abuser doesn't even know they're doing. And that's important.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, my goal was to actually hopefully get people into the seat of the four people who discuss what to do, and maybe eventually ask a question like how much do we have a part in it when we witness something, how much we want to interfere, is it right, wrong, so maybe start the discussion.
That's very important. And could you describe the process of filming this? What were some of the difficulties or unexpected surprises that happened?
Well, hanging out on the back of a trailer for 2 nights in the rain was challenging. She was sitting in the nice warm car, but I was on the outside with the camera. No, but that's just filmmaking. That's just craziness. Challenges. The usual challenges of making independent film, getting the funding, but this one did an amazing job with the crowdfunding, finding the crew and the gear. I mean, just the normal stuff. Did we have any particular, like, harder than other films?
Well, I don't think it was really specifically hard, but it was definitely a challenge too. Because what you see there in the film is like a low loader, so you get like a car that's on another car, and you film everything, and the crew is around it. But everyone had like a seat belt, so we were literally driving, I think, 80 or 90 kilometers per hour on a highway in Amsterdam while it was raining very badly, and everybody was just belted and was trying to get the right pictures and stuff. And I was just looking at it, as well as the other male actor, of course. So that was, I mean, it was a challenge, let's put it like that. Yeah, but it was definitely as well an adventure, I think.
Well, these shots are during the pandemic, so moving people, bring them over the set or getting them away, or those kind of things like shooting outside was a hurdle. But then, you know, like shooting in the pandemic was kind of nice for us. Earlier on I was talking about it in the workshop as well, because it gave me a lot of time with the actors, since everybody was unemployed during the pandemic, so we just really milked that, so I was happy.
And what was the creative process like? Why did you make this film the way it is?
I don't know how to answer that.
Why questions are really hard.
Well, yeah, I guess what aided with how to tell the story or what you wanted to convey. through the film?
So one of the early creative choices that I made was that I wanted to have the camera outside the car for the whole film. I mean, I knew the film was going to be basically all a cab ride, except when she stepped out for a cigarette. That was just a break in shooting, and we just happened to film it. But I wanted that we, the audience, don't go inside the car, that we stay removed from them because it's their experience, it's their story, and I wanted to keep that glass and that barrier between us. So that was an early choice, and I think I'm very pleased with it. I think it works very well. I remember having an interesting conversation with my producer once he saw my storyboard and my plans. I make maps of what I'm going to shoot. He said, "But you never put the camera in the car? But we have to get close to them because we have to feel them." And I'm like, no. So we actually had a bit of a discussion about that, saying I even shot backup shots inside the car, kind of as a in case my vision in the edit didn't work, because we always second guess ourselves. But no, we didn't use them, and that's I'm pleased with that. That really worked for me. So that was one of the sort of creative hurdles. And the other thing that I think makes the whole film come together is that man's work. Put your hand up. Everybody's clapping. You don't even know what he did yet. Nick made the music, composing that. And that just, I'm terrible with music, and I remember our first conversation was me saying, I'm not really great with music, so you're going to really have to help me out. And it's amazing, and not just you, but the performance, the piano player who played the music, there's so much depth in it. And you recorded it live, right, on a grand piano, and it's really great. It's minimal, kind of, but we have just basically 3 cues throughout the film, beginning, middle, and end. But it works so much, and certainly towards the end, when the music gives us hope that she's gonna go on and move forward from this experience. Excellent. I don't think that answered your question, but I just wanted to show.
Yeah, for me, I can maybe talk about not seeing the fight that May was having was a particular choice. I mean, like often it's so portrayed and so graphic that I think we get to be removed from what's going on. I think that was a very certain choice that we want to be the ear and the witness that way. And I mean, as I said, because I experienced it in a apartment setting, I wanted to portray it that way also, to be truthful to the authenticity of it. But also, like apartments are strange places, like 18-story high. I think I was living in an apartment with 56 flats, and you don't really know who you live with. They don't know you, and you don't know them, and with the elevators and the fire escapes, like I could only do the search through the fire escape in my case, so I was extra removed from the situation. And like it's a really strange environment, and a lot goes through in your mind while you are doing this kind of crazy search for something. And like most of the characters are people that are in my mind, so that's how it got created, I can say.
Thank you very much for attending this Q&A.
International Film Festival, The Hague.
Good evening, and first of all, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for participating in this festival. I would like to first ask the public if they have any questions, any curiosities about the films that we just watched. Feel free to ask any question.
That's great that you make photos of everything to attain the ambachten. Ja, om de ambacht te behouden.
Crafts.
Ja, dat wil ik dan even. Mooi werk.
Thank you.
Well, I would like to start. Oh, yes, of course.
I have a question actually for both of your movies, but then I add the movie to. I add a question to the last movie first. I was wondering, the movie is called Traces of the Future, but I wondered why is it not called Traces of the Past? Because you really like to capture what might be gone soon.
Well, the reason why I called it that is because Herman calls his project Traces of the Future. I think actually Herman can explain it best why he calls it that, and that's also the reason why my film is called the same.
In my entire career, I had a red thread through my work, my free work, my autonomous work as photographer, and it's always things that were from the past. Either it be destroyed villages or cultural or industrial heritage. All those kind of things interested me very much, and I tried to make projects out of that. And then when I came to Venice, and I got interested in the crafts that are there, and I saw them disappear, and I thought I have to be. This time I can't wait till they're gone. I have to make them now, photograph them now, so they'll be the traces for the future. So now I'm photographing the traces that are still there, but they will be traces when they're all gone, and I'm afraid it's going to happen. So I want to establish that they're still there and value their work, what they're doing. Is that the answer to what you? Yeah.
Thanks very much. Anyone else would like to ask a question for any of our filmmakers? Then I will. So, going on with you, I would like to ask you, how do you think that the time passing is affecting not only the job situation in Venice, but also the sense of community, both in Utrecht and also in Venice? What do you think it's the consequences?
The consequences that the autonomous population will disappear from all those cities, because the people that want to invest in those cities are usually people that just want to make profit out of it, and they buy up all the real estate, and that's what's happening in Venice, and you see that in Amsterdam and Utrecht and everywhere. Actually, the cities that are interesting for tourists, they buy them and they rent them out to tourists, and it doesn't contribute anything to the communities that were there. They're just destroying everything. Maybe it sounds exaggerated, but I think that's what's happening everywhere.
Well, as a person that is from the same area as Venice, it was really interesting to get to know some aspects of the city and some niche jobs that I didn't even know that existed. So it was very powerful to be able to see that today. And how did you come up with the comparison between Utrecht and Venice? How come did you choose these exact two locations?
Well, maybe it's not so obvious, but it's still, there's both cities that exist because of the water. So
for sure.
But for me, it was also not easy to look for all the similarities, because Venice is built on crafts. That's where it came from. When they started using the islands as a location to live, they had to do everything with their hands, with the fishing boats, and the way they fished, the ironworks, etc. Everything had to be crafted, and that is still the case actually there. Though it's taken over a lot of the crafts by other means, and in the Netherlands you also had a lot of crafts, of course, but it's not as compact as in Venice. Everything is in a small scale. And it's a human scale, actually, what I call human scale. Even the streets and everything, the bridges, you can't take the car and go from one side to the other real quick. No, you have to walk, and there's a bridge that slows you down, and etc. etc. Everything is on human scale. That I think so. It's so fascinating. And it used to be the same case in all the medieval cities. It's Utrecht, Amsterdam, The Hague, etc. Everything was more on a human scale, and everything is going to be destroyed. It's already destroyed for a lot, but I try I hope that my work will, and that's from Suzanne, will contribute to keeping a lot of those things still, even if they're museums. You can give it through to the next generation then.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
really powerful answer. And moving on to your film, I would like to ask you, how did you come up with this historical setting? Because not only it's a very special historical setting, but at the same time, we see a very different scenario where we have an executioner who actually feels pity towards the victim of, if we can call it that, of the situation that is seen as a witch. So how did you come up with this setting, and how did you adapt it to a situation where an executioner feels pity towards this person that is being tortured?
Okay, so, excuse me. Firstly, I didn't come up with the situation. Entgen Leijten is a historical figure. This really happened. She was the last victim of witch persecutions in the Netherlands. And if you compare that to other Western European countries, 1674 is actually quite late. The Age of Enlightenment was already supposed to have started by then, which was not always true for everyone, unfortunately. So she really died in captivity. So many of the text and stuff that you hear in the film is actually just from the actual court transcripts. The only fictitious character in the story, they were all involved, is the executioner. But there was someone doing that. They just don't mention his name. So his name is actually fictitious. And then, if you read those papers, then another truth comes to the fore. Because witch hunts is seldom truly about witchcraft. It's actually always about disownment and stealing and robbing strong women of their place in society. And that just jumped off the page for me. And that's where the idea for this film came from. Yeah.
Thank you. And I would like to thank you all for coming and joining us today. And I really enjoyed watching these movies, so thank you on a personal level, but also I think for everyone here. And see you at the bar.
International Film Festival, The Hague.
So we had a crew which used to follow them in each state, walking for about 20-30 days in each state with them. But they also had an archival crew that filmed every day for about 2 hours for 474 days. So it's a mix of some of our footage, production footage, archival footage, and also because, in documentary, sometimes you're looking for something specific, then you dig deep. We had to dig through mobile clips, and it's a mixed bag of a lot of footage to be able to put it together truthfully. One of the main challenges of this was to be able to put it in a linear fashion. That was a strong decision taken by the team in the start, that we wanted to show the walk from where it started to where it ended, because it could have been very easy to go non-linear in a subject like this. But the idea was to kind of condense 474 days into 1.5 hours, so that you guys have the experience of literally walking from the southernmost tip to the north along with them. So that was, I think, the challenge of the footage while filming with them.
Thank you, Akash. And before I take the next question for audience, I have a curiosity myself.
Sir.
You, Sagar, comes from a very, very big commercial movie industry, Mughals of Bollywood, Bombay. How did you get involved?
Not Mughals, but we're part of it.
Figuratively speaking, you are one of the biggest commercial production house. How did you get involved in this kind of documentary?
So actually, my background as a creative producer and as a producer has been with a lot of television, I also come from doing a lot of broadcast, which is non-fiction, factual. So I've worked in the non-fiction space quite a bit, and I always wanted to do a documentary feature. You know, as a filmmaker, you always want to do a documentary feature. And this was the year 2013 when I met Sri M, and he told me that he's going to be undertaking this enterprise. And that's when I said that, okay, I want to be a part of this in some way, I want to contribute in some way. And I said, okay, this is it, let's attempt to make the docu-feature on this subject. We were not very sure, to be very honest with you. When we started out, we were not very sure. It was just me, a very close friend of mine, and another friend, 3 of us with 3 cameras standing in the middle of this peace march of 3,000 people. We really didn't know how to film it. We really didn't know whether this would be a film, whether this would be a documentary. But we just stepped in, and as the walk progressed, so did our narrative, so did our filming. If you see in the start, we were trying to find our footings as well. And slowly, we kind of figured out how to film them, because it was actually very difficult to film someone who's walking very fast in front of you, and you don't get a second chance, especially if you're racking focus. No retakes. And it's a big crowd of about almost 80 to 100 people who walk by, and they were walking really fast. I don't know if it comes on camera, but in real life, they were walking really fast. So to be able to keep up with them, to complete your shot, and then you go follow them again in front. So it was a challenge, but I think eventually we found the narrative. It took time. It took some time, but we finally found the narrative of the film and what it tries to say.
Thank you. It may not be He joined, you may have seen his footage, and so did our advisor, Yusur. She had the opportunity to walk, and then later on organized the Hague walk. Yes, next question, please. Yeah, Vijay.
Really beautiful documentary, by the way.
Thank you.
It was very touching.
Thank you.
Maybe I missed the point that you made, but from a narrative level, did you already have a certain script in mind that I want to cover these points to tell a certain narrative, and how did you overcome certain things that you couldn't shoot, let's say if they were walking past or if something else was happening?
Interesting question. No, we did not have a script in place at all. We didn't know whether this would, how would this pan out. So in general, in documentaries, one of the things is you start shooting, and then when you later on sit down, you try and find the actual story, the most objective story of what happened. So after we had the footage, this was about after 1.5 years of the walk, we sat down with the team and we scanned through all the footage, and we tried to find the story, as it's called, what actually happened. We did a lot of research calls with all of the walkers who walked. We logged all the footage, and that was quite a learning for me as well, because for the first time, what changed the perspective, to coming to your point, is that for the first time, when you're a part of something, you're seeing it from a very in-depth perspective, but when you look at it taking a step back, when we saw the footage, we were able to look at it taking a step back. We could see the magnitude of this movement, from a grassroots movement of about 80 to 100 people to touching 10 million lives in India. And we said, that's the story.
Great.
That was the story, which we said, let's focus on that.
Thank you, and that's about the time we were allotted for the Q&A.
Thank you. No, we'll sit down. We can sit down outside. I'm right here. Happy to have a coffee with any one of you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the festival, and thank you all very much for watching the film. I really appreciate you all being here this morning. Genuinely, thank you once again.
International Film Festival, The Hague.
Yes.
So I know Savarna through Michael, who got me to bring her in and interview her, and she's in my second book, After Flipside. after this film. Have you seen this goofy film that they just showed people?
I have. I have. It's interesting to see Pete and Paul with more hair.
That's true. And then ultimately, I did another film recently called Hacking the Afterlife, where I took some of the footage, from that and put that in with other people. I've got to tell you that, so I've been working with a medium who works with law enforcement here in Los Angeles. She has been for the past 8 years. We do a podcast. Anyway, we asked Michael to come through, and he did come through. It's in the film Hacking the Afterlife, and he talked about the hair. He said the same thing. Isn't that funny? They're doing
okay.
fixed up business. Don't worry about it. That's great. I love that you have those books prominently on your shelf there. That's very cool.
It's kind of good for people to know that there are actually books.
Yeah, that's true. Well, tell me, do you have a website so I can tell friends of mine?
Yeah, it's sfbayregressions.com.
Okay, very good, because frequently the topic comes up. A friend of mine is a therapist in Berkeley this weekend, and I've been talking about this stuff for a long time now. Notice I have a red carpet behind me, in honor of films.
Yes, that's great. I didn't know I was coming, so I didn't have anything really to prepare.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm sorry about Pete's mom. I'm sorry to hear that. So I guess she lives in Melbourne?
Hello? She lives in Sydney, and she has not been doing well for like the last 6 months. And Pete has moved north. He's moved to Cairns, which is way up at the northern tip of Australia.
Hi.
And he works almost totally. Hello.
Sorry.
Hi, we are calling from the Hague.
Yeah, we're here. We're Diana and I can hear you very well. Are you going to go live, Avnish?
Great. Avnish, so can I start the Q&A session?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes. Thank you very much. But for your audience's information, Mr. Peter Smith of MNI, Michael Newton Institute, will not be able to join. And Executive Director, Ms. Diana Hague, she will be addressing the questions. And Mr. Richard Martini will be definitely able to help. So now I'm sitting in front of the live audience who are who have witnessed your Journey of Soul, that film. Just now we have completed the screening of the film, and let me directly address the audience if they have any questions.
Well, can we see you? Can you put us on Zoom so we can actually see what's going on? Not really. Okay, this is new information. So let me ask you some questions. You can see us. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Definitely, the audience can also see both you, Richard Martini, and Ms. Diana Hague.
Okay. All right, so to give us, listen, I am a film director. So to give us some context, Diana and I just met online. We're meeting for the first time. Pete Smith, who is, as you know, the president of the Newton Institute. He's in Australia and he wasn't able to make it today. Diana and I haven't met before, but it's wonderful for her to be here. I have worked with, maybe a dozen or maybe more Newton Institute trained hypnotherapists, and I know how talented they are, and I know how giving they are, and I know how much work it takes. So first, allow me to say, if you don't mind, before we get to questions, thank you for coming to see this film. Thank you for attending the film festival. In honor of your film festival, I have put behind me a photograph I took from the Cannes Film Festival, because I go there often. And since we can't be in The Hague today, a wonderful, famous city for giving peace and focusing on peace throughout the world. So I'm very honored, and I'm sure Diane is too, to be invited, even at the drop of a hat at the last minute, to your festival. And let's, if we may, let's let Diana talk a little bit about her journey and to this path, to this moment in time, so that at least we understand where we're coming from.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I think that's a good idea. Thank you, Rich. Ms. Diana Peck, can you introduce yourself?
So my name is Diana Peck. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. I have been a hypnotherapist for about 15 years, and I have been a Newton therapist since 2016. And I was trained by Pete and by Paul and by Jimmy Quast, all of whom were in this film. And at this point, I am the executive director of the Newton Institute. I followed in this position after Pete moved out of being president. We changed our structure. And so I am involved in leading this organization into the future. And I am particularly thankful to Avnish for bringing this film to the world, because what we do as Newton workers is that we are wanting to spread access to consciousness and to help people connect. And as you can see in this film, people connect very deeply when they're given the opportunity, but they have to learn about it. So how do they learn about it? And that you're bringing this film gives more people a window into something that many people have never even heard of or knew that they could connect with. So this work is very personal, it's very individual. People have profound journeys. They go into past lives. And what's different about Michael's work, as he talks in the film, is that not only did he take people into past lives, he's taken people into the space between lives when they're no longer in a body. And they are able then to speak from the level of their souls, looking at the whole of their existence and asking questions about why this, why us, why does this happen, why am I here, who are these people that I'm wandering around with, and all of the questions that we want to know about, because we're caught in an incarnation where we can't see that most of the time. So it's a very exciting journey, and I'm glad that Rich made this film now 12, 13 years ago, that really expressed what this journey is about and gave you an inkling of what it's like to experience it yourselves. So I'm open to whatever questions you have.
Very good. And if I may introduce my journey just a little bit, like Diana. So in my case, it was a close friend of mine, as I mentioned in the film, close friend of mine, Luana Andrews, passed away in my arms, and then started visiting me. And the jaded Hollywood skeptic that I was, I thought, well, I must be making this up. And somewhere along the line, as I mentioned in the book Flipside, I met somebody in London, and while I was shaking his hand, I heard Luana's voice in my head say, well, this is why you're in London. And I thought, okay, that's very strange. I'm hearing her, and I'm hearing new information from somebody not on the planet. And when I shook this fella's hand, I felt like I knew him, and then some months later, tragedy befell him, and his daughter passed away, and I reached out to him and said, you know, I wonder if hypnotherapy might help you. And he wrote me back and said, I have an appointment with a Newton-trained hypnotherapist this week. And I was like, what's that? And so I picked up a copy of Journey of Souls, which Diana has over her shoulder. And in the first chapter, there was the conversation somebody having while under hypnosis saying, I'm in a classroom on the other side, we're dealing with spirituality when everyone is dressed in white. Now that is something my friend Luana had said to me repeatedly before she passed. She had this recurring dream. And when I mentioned it to her hospice care nurse, she said the same thing. Oh my gosh, that was her recurring dream. And the day she passed away, a friend called and said, I had the most wonderful dream last night. We found our friend Luana was in the fourth dimension, she said, in a classroom, dressed in white, and seemed very happy about being there. And I thought, well, I have the capacity to make a film about this sort of thing. So I contacted Paul Oren, who was then president of the Newton Institute, and I suggested a film. And he said, well, Michael's retired, so I don't think he'll want to. But maybe you should bring your cameras to one of our workshops, and we will, if you give us a copy of that, of whatever you shoot. I said, oh, that's great. I think that's a great idea. So I went to Chicago. I started filming. The woman who recalled being in Auschwitz, that was the first footage that I shot, and I was in shock hearing what she was saying. And then at some point during that week, they suggested that I try a session, which I thought, oh, what a perfect opportunity for me to prove to myself that it's not accurate, that maybe. And Jimmy Quast, who was in the film, was the person who did my session. And I was prepared for 4 hours to say I don't see anything if I didn't. But Jimmy's very good at what he does, as Diana knows. And somewhere into that journey, he said, well, just look down. What do you see? And from there, the door is all open. It was like the garden gate was open. And I could see and hear and learn new information about things that I wasn't aware of. And when I finished that session, I must say, I mean, I interviewed Pete Smith, as you see in the film, and Paul in the film. When I walked out of that session, I felt like the earth had shifted on its axis slightly, just a few degrees, because everything that I thought I had learned and knew was now up in the air, and it was subject to review. And so that's what I've been doing for the past 12 years, filming people. I've filmed over 200 sessions so far, thanks to all the Newton hypnotherapists who let me into their office, because I don't say anything. I just turn the camera on and be quiet. Maybe I'll pass a note. But half of those were using guided meditation, which is just a simple way of saying somebody who's already done hypnotherapy, somebody who's very good at hypnosis and doing it, or a guided meditation, somebody who's very good at that practice, especially people whose background is in meditation. I found that I can just start asking them questions directly without doing this 6 hours and I wrote a book about it. It's called, Divine Counsels in the Afterlife. Now, Divine Counsels came from Michael, because that's where I first read about them. And Michael talks about them a lot in his second book, Destiny of Souls. But in these guided meditations, I found that I could ask questions to council members about who they are, where they come from, how did they earn a role on this person's council. You wouldn't think, it's counterintuitive, you wouldn't think that I, who have never met this person before, could be asking their council, who's known them for all their lifetimes, questions about their journey. And in the book, I have 20 scientists who had never done anything like this before. They hadn't read anything of mine and were not aware that you could talk to councils. Let me just... Okay, but let me just finish this thought, my friend, which is to say that what it shows is that we are at the forefront of opening up the door to talking to consciousness on the other side. And that's what we need to be doing. And I thank you, Diana, for mentioning it, because she's doing it, this work is doing it, anyone can, and I highly recommend going to a Newton-trained hypnotherapist, because in the 4 to 6 hours, it lasts. It changes your life. Whereas what I'm talking about is something more along, let's examine a dream you had. And once you're done with that session, you go home. Anyway, go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, if any question is ready, otherwise I will ask one. Okay. Pass on the mic.
Hi, I do have a question. I was thinking while looking at this film about people who feel like soulmates, right? So you meet them and instantly you click without having talked to them that much, or you just kind of know them, or you have the feeling you know them. How do you relate these people into the context of this film?
Diana,
go ahead. I think that is something that we connect with, that we have groups of people, groups of souls who go through lives together. And we don't necessarily know them, as the individuals that they incarnate as, but our souls pick up the energy because our souls are energy and they're all energy that's connected. So we're all connected. People, the souls who are working on it, are also working together because we make agreements with souls to work on a contract together. So if you and, Barbara are working on this contract and you start, she's Barbara in the past life and now she's Mary in this life, and the two of you may not have completed it, so here you are in this life continuing to work on it. And sometimes one of the interesting things that I've been seeing lately is that souls may develop contracts for more than one life at a time. So in a past, when you look at a past life, you look at a life and you say, okay, I'm setting up this life and I'm setting it up to do this and this and this. But what if I don't finish all that in one life? I'm choosing now to continue.
She's a hypnotherapist from New York, and she talked about not wanting to do some of the lifetimes that they offered her, that they were saying, what about this? And she was like, too much snow. I don't want to go there. But it's interesting. So, as you think of it like a stage, you have an actor trying to work out details of their lifetime, and the theater director or the theater directors, they say, well, why don't we have two performances simultaneously so you can experience both of those things, the trauma and the joy, at the same time so your soul won't be damaged. And like you say, almost like a 3D chess game, when you're playing a certain role here, it might not pay off for the Department of Perceptual Studies, Dr. Grayson, Dr. Tucker, Dr. Kelly. And what they've shown in their work is that consciousness is not confined to the brain. If you look up on YouTube, Dr. Grayson's talk from 2011, Is Consciousness Produced by the Brain? You'll see a lot of the data that shows that consciousness is not confined to the brain. In his work, Dr. Grayson's work, his book is called After, he talks about how you can get objective data from subjective experiences, which is a dream or a...
So, basically, I am an Indian, and as such we believe in reincarnation. So I am not a skeptic. So I treat this work, which is going on by your institute as well as Dr. Brand, Oz, and Weiss, and so many people, as equivalent to something like Darwin's biological evolution. There is a spiritual evolution has been discovered, and the scientific methodology of it is being refined by wonderful work by you guys. But this question is coming from Mr. Scott. His question is, how can we ensure the authenticity of this experience? Because it could simply be a guided hypnosis, and it may be a totally story which is coming out of the mind of a hypnotherapist or
If I could take that, Diana, let me start with that.
Sure.
I've been working with University of Virginia, the Department of Perceptual Studies, Dr. Grayson, Dr. Tucker, Dr. Kelly, and what they've shown in their work is that consciousness is not confined to the brain. If you look up on YouTube, Dr. Grayson's talk from 2011, Is Consciousness Produced by the Brain? You'll see a lot of the data that shows that consciousness is not confined to the brain. In his work, Dr. Grayson's work, his book is called After, he talks about how you can get objective data from subjective experiences, which is a dream or a hypnotherapy session, because you're experiencing it's subjective, when you ask everyone the same questions. That's how all drugs come to market. You know, the person who experiences using a drug eventually does a survey. It says, well, they answer the same questions. So when you can examine this kind of work, and what Michael Newton did in the estimated 7,000 cases that he and the Newton Institute were involved in, you can compare that data, those objective responses from subjective experiences because of the questions involved, with the work of Dr. Helen Wambach, who in the 1970s did 3,000 different case studies She was a psychologist, clinical psychologist. And you compare the answers with Dr. Weiss, you mentioned him, he's done 4,000 examples. You compare the data of the experience. I'll just give you one, which is in Michael Newton's interview for Flipside, he said there was never an incident that he was aware of where a soul came to the mother's fetus until the 4th month, after the 1st trimester. I mean, it's possible that there's people who come earlier, but in general, that's what he was saying. Dr. Wamba's research, out of her 3,000, she never had one person who said that they came before the 6th month. So in other words, we exist prior to incarnation. We plan our lifetimes with our counsel, our teachers, our guides, and then when we get here, it's about, and we bring a percentage, the average I think is between 20 and 40%. We bring that conscious energy to the life. And so that's data. And so how do you differentiate data from different people is you compare it, just the way they do with near-death studies. That's my point.
So the one part of the comment was, how do you know that it isn't simply a suggestion that is being given by the hypnotherapist? Hypnotherapy is about supporting the client in having their own experience. We provide the container. We don't provide the actual, what they actually experienced. So I may be taking you into a state of relaxation, and I suggest you go to a beautiful place. And recently I had a client who, her conscious mind was saying, I want to go to a meadow. I have this meadow in my mind that I really like. And she found herself being drawn into a grove of trees. It's like, but I want to go to the meadow, but she's going into the trees. And she could feel that conscious interference, that her mind was wanting to go to this place that she knew, but that wasn't where she was going. So she actually experienced that tension of something within her was taking her into that grove of trees. When we are in a state and we go into a past life and we start to experience it, our first experiences are pretty vague because you drop into a life without context. You don't know where you are. You don't know why you landed where you landed. And so you have to ground. And as you ground, you begin to get a sense of who you are. Once I have a client grounded as much as they can, which may not be very much, I take them all the way back to the beginning of their lives. So here you are, you're a young adult, you think you're male, so I'm going to take you all the way back to childhood, early childhood, on the count of 3. And now you are a small child. Tell me about you. I didn't provide I provided the suggestion, you are a small child. I didn't say you're a boy, I didn't say you're a girl, I didn't say where you are. So this is coming from somewhere inside of you. As someone goes through a life, if it is simply something that they're making up in their head, there's no emotional attachment to what they're experiencing or what they're reporting. But then when you have someone, all of a sudden they break down and they're in tears because their child has just died, if that's something you're just making up out of your head, it doesn't have an emotional connection for you. It's just a story. And time after time, one experiences emotional connections because they're accessing this deep emotional memory. So that's the primary thing that happens when one goes into these states, is one accesses memory that's not available when the ego, the conscious mind is online. The conscious mind is not interfering with that experience. This is a very experiential journey that one goes on. And the mind allows that to happen once the mind feels that the person is safe.
Thank you. So your conclusion is this, that this is a scientific methodology, and just like any other research, medical or any scientific research, this can be proved and it is repeatable.
Yes.
Any next question?
Comment and question.
Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. First to the producers.
Very active in that.
Thank you, Mr. Anna. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you for that
Mr.
answer.
Martini.
Appreciate that.
Please convey our best regards to Mr. Peter Smith also. If any other questions are there in the audience, we'll write it to you and convey the results to them. Thank you once again on behalf of the festival director, Dr. Avnish Rajvanshi, as well as the IFFH team.
Thank you, Avnish.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you very much,
Pieces ahead.
Diana. Thank you, Rich. Thank you for your participation. I think there are lots of questions here. So what I propose, if you agree, I will just take them and send it to you, and then we can communicate with them. Right now,
Excellent.
we need to close because the cinema hall has to close and people are waiting.
Time to go home.
Okay.
I appreciate
Thank
it.
you, everybody, for attending. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Namaste. Namaskar.
Namaste.
Namaste.